I'm Nicole.
I'm Rolando.
And this is Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals.
An original podcast
about unoriginality. And today we are discussing, reacting, sharing our thoughts to the 97th Academy Awards that just happened last night, March 2nd, 2025. What's your relationship to the Oscars? Are you a big fan?
I'm not a fan of award shows. The only award shows I liked growing up were the VMAs because those were fun and
yeah,
you know, they had music and stuff. I never liked the Grammys because most of the time the Grammy nominees I never cared for. But the VMAs, they were pop culture and stuff, right? The Oscars, I remember in college, I tried to get into it because, I was studying film and stuff. And it's just our teacher was saying you should be in the know of what's happening and stuff in the industry. And it's just such a circle jerk that I just can never get into it. And I love television more than I love film. And even I can't get through the Emmys, for example, hard pass.
No, I get it. Not even the fashion, huh?
No, I'm not like I like to read people's reviews of the fashion, right? Nothing was better than when not Jane Fonda, what's her name? She was mean on the red carpet.
Joan Rivers?
Joan Rivers, yeah, Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers ripping fashion apart, for example.
Yeah.
I could get into that, but I'm not. I don't know, rarely do I see anything that impresses me, right? Even this year's red carpets were kind of just snore.
Yeah, I'm not too much for the red carpet. I appreciate fashion. I appreciate it as its own art form, but I don't watch it for that. When I was younger, I was really into the Oscars. I mean, I became a movie buff at age 11, and so I remember just I would record the Oscars on VHS. I was really into it, and then I in my early 20s, when I became an adult, I was like, this is stupid. But I've kind of circled back just because I love movies. And I'm usually the type of person who I go and I support movies at the theater. I attend film festivals and I try and see as much as I can. So I had seen almost but one all films nominated for Best Picture this year. I saw everything for international film and I saw all animated feature film. So just as someone who's been going and seeing films and feeling really passionately about them, I watch and I support the ones that I think should win. Right. So I guess I'm just really a champion for supporting, the above the line and the below the line people in these award ceremonies. I think it focuses way too much on the celebrities. It's television. A lot of people only know these celebrities. I get it, but it should be more of a celebration of the people who actually make movies happen, which they kind of tried to do this year. And they did. Yeah. So I love that. We're doing an Oscars reaction. Rolando, full disclosure, did not have the chance to actually watch the Oscars.
Yeah, way to put me on blast right there, right? The audience needs to know that. I could have just faked my way through. But no,
we love faking it, right?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, outside the fact that I had no desire of watching it, I was also just busy and stuff. And
well, I'll tell you a little bit about it as someone who did watch it. Conan O'Brien hosted. I think he did really good because if you have watched any of the past Oscars, which I know you did last year because you came over, last couple of award ceremonies where I just didn't think that great, especially the one where Will Smith slapped Chris Rock.
Yeah, the slap heard around the world.
The slap heard around. Yeah, they just have been kind of meh presentations. They've not gotten it right. And I felt like they got it right this year. I think Conan O'Brien was a good blend of ragging on people and then being self-deprecating at the same time and then honoring all the firefighters and tributing LA and below the line positions within the Film Academy this year. A couple of really random moments happened, though, as they always do. And most of the bad things that happened were the speeches. So I could definitely tell you about some of those. Let's just talk about some of, the big winners, the big takeaway. The big one, Best Picture, a film we haven't covered on the podcast because it doesn't qualify. But nonetheless, we should talk a little bit about Anora.
I can't believe that won. I haven't seen it yet. I'm in movie club. This was my pick for this week. I just picked it because I wanted to see it, and we can kind of get it off on streaming. So I was just I'm going to pick it. Nothing to do with the Oscars, and it kind of did pretty well in the Oscars. It got what? Best Actress, Best Picture.
It got Best Original Screenplay, Film Editing, Actor, Director, Best Picture.
Good. It's just it's nice to know that we can still appreciate original work that is, from what I'm understanding, it didn't seem like Oscar bait.
No, it's actually the type of film that you would never think would even get nominated for an Oscar, let alone sweep it. Sean Baker, he wrote it, he edited it all on Adobe Premiere Pro, and then he directed it and produced it. So he won 4 Academy Awards last night, which is insane. I think he actually broke a record for the amount won by a single person in one night. This movie was also made on a $6 million budget, so it's one of the most independent films to win in a long time.
Which I love. I love
I
that
love
for
that.
that's a
Yeah,
great story for this, industry, right? Because I think we've been covering this podcast for so long, we know how much bloat there is in filmmaking
yeah,
and how budgets get overblown and they just underperform and the budgets aren't just required, right? Because we focus so much on like the spectacle that
yeah.
we forget that like just a simple story and like solid filmmaking is all we really need.
Absolutely. I think this is a great message, and especially because Sean Baker went up there and was like, "Please go to theaters and support movies." It's really all about that, and that's
Wow.
actually how you support the industry.
You lost me now.
And so I saw Nora in a theater. I saw Nora at the Montclair Film Festival here in New Jersey, at the Wellmont Theater with about audience size of almost 2,000 people. And it was amazing seeing a film of that caliber,
Hmm.
which you haven't seen it yet, Rolando. Prepare for a lot of tonal shifts happening throughout the movie. Seeing that with an audience
Mm.
was incredible. It was one of the best movie going experiences last night. It really lent itself to my enjoyment of the film. I think it's one of those movies that the more people you watch it with, kind of the better, but it's a great movie nonetheless. And I concur. Rolando disagrees, but I concur. Theaters are disappearing. He talked about how 1,000 theaters and that this country's lost 1,000 screens since the pandemic. And it's a cultural experience that all of us have grown up on, positive experiences, negative experiences, but nonetheless, it's a shared experience that most of us have. Most of us have fun memories, some of us don't, whatever it is. Movie going experiences are disappearing. And he just took that platform to be like, let's try and support movie theaters again because
Mm.
we kind of want to maintain that. Not maybe always, but having it there is important. It's part of our culture and we don't want to lose it.
Well, I mean, then the industry needs to like step it up a little bit, right? Like that's more so on the industry. And it's not just about the types of movies, right? Because I don't think that is the issue. It's more so the actual like the movie pricing, like the ticket prices, they haven't necessarily like they're not so astronomical, but it's just the concessions that are so expensive that it's just like it's so expensive to just go out for a theater that it makes no financial sense. It's just like, yo, I'm paying for all these streaming services. Why go to a theater? Like, why? Like I'm sorry, not for nothing, Nicole, but like that experience of being with everyone else watching a movie, it just doesn't excite me.
Well, yeah, and that's you. I think that having that experience with it's kind of like riding a roller coaster by yourself or
Which
going
I
on a
love.
ride by yourself, which I don't know, some things I can't just enjoy by myself. Maybe other people can, and that's great for them. It sucks because the concessions support the theater chain, right? The actual ticket supports the movie studio. So the prices, they
Yeah, but the movie,
vary.
I guess the movie chains. The problem is also the movie chains are also consolidated too. That it's just like, oh,
No,
cool. I'm supporting
absolutely.
one billionaire. Fuck off.
I mean, and it is what it is, but at the end of the day, those by supporting those things, you're also supporting all the people who work for the studio, all the people who work for the movie going chains, like so it's tough. I love the experience and I think it's worth it. So I just
Mm.
liked that he used that platform though, because some of the other speeches, they were a little entitled and they spoke a little bit too much about themselves, where Sean
Did
Baker
anyone?
actually went and spoke for the industry.
Did
So
anyone bring up Ukraine? Did anyone bring up our political situation that we're in in this
one
country?
person went up and said, "Stand with Ukraine" before they did it, which was really interesting. That was
That's
Daryl
good.
Hannah right before I think she gave the film editing award. But no other land won at the Oscars, which is a film about the Israeli military occupation of Maser Yafa and the West Bank and
Okay.
how it's a joint Israeli and Palestinian film. And they went up and pretty much they spoke in the name of peace. And it was the most important speech of the night. It actually showed that outside of Hollywood and the little bubble of Hollywood, the real stuff that's going on in the world, it really put a voice on that. And I thought it was the best speech. I thought it was the most deserving film. I've seen that film. It's a
Mm.
film that does not have distribution because people are too scared to distribute it because people are, walking on eggshells around Israel. I thought it was magnificent that it won. And all of these wins, right? Like No Other Land winning documentary film, Honora winning Best Picture have really marked a change in I think the Oscars. Like the Oscars is kind of they're with it, right? They're with the hot button political issues and they're actually like with the cool movies. They're honoring a film about sex work. That would have never have happened in
Mm.
90s Oscars or early 2000s Oscars. They would have given it to Shakespeare in Love in 1998. They would have given it to Crash in 2005 instead of giving it to Brokeback Mountain. Like
Right.
they're actually giving them to the good movies, like when they gave it to Parasite in
But is it
2019,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But is that
when
a
they
little
gave it to
performative?
Everything Everywhere All at Once in 2022. So last year, Oppenheimer won. I'm not
Ew,
a big fan of
I wasn't
Oppenheimer
present.
myself, but a lot of people said that movie. A lot of people think that movie's great. Um, it
Fine.
won against like Barbie and some other stuff. A lot of people think they got it right with Oppenheimer. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of that, but
Neither am I. I don't know.
yeah, well, so between the two of us too, the dynamic is that I'm more of the cinephile, and I think I could speak more to that community than you can. You're the average moviegoer, and you have that kind of perspective on it. So, of your perspective of Venora winning as an average moviegoer, what do you think the signals? Anything, or are you just like, oh, that's pretty cool, and I want to check it out?
Like, I know very little of Anora, and I'm trying to like stay still as I hear it's like the modern day Pretty Woman. I'm just like, okay, cool. Let's see how we how we retell the story. So there's that. Uh I don't know if it marks like a big shift for Hollywood or anything. Like it's not I don't know. It's not going to excite me for the Oscars going forward or something because like I said, it's just like it's not
Well,
the
I
kind
don't
of
know if it's about like exciting the average moviegoer or like even exciting people, but it's cool to see that a movie like Honora, again, a movie about sex work. Like I actually thought that Conclave was going to win Best Picture because historically the Academy Awards doesn't usually give it to like the movie that's actually the best. They give it to the more respectable and safe bet. And to me,
Mhm.
Conclave was like the safe bet. I'm just so glad that Amelia Perez didn't get it.
Yeah,
And
everyone hates this film. I haven't seen it yet, nor probably will
yeah,
I, and I hear
as a
it's
queer
terrible.
person, really did not enjoy that film. And not even because of the way that they handled the queerness aspect. I just don't think it's that great. I think it's a very unaware film. I will say that the people who won Best Song for Amelia Perez, they went up there and they sang their own song. So
Did
that
they
just like
really?
shows they did. So that just goes to show that most people who are involved with this movie have their head up their own ass. It was just, again, like I said, most of the awkward moments of this thing were the speeches.
Huh. It's even though I have a movie podcast, right? Like it just does seem a little sometimes like just like, is this really does this really matter? Like that's I guess maybe that's also the other reason why I just didn't watch the Oscars this year because it's just like, yo, we
But you could say that
this
about
country
anything. Then does
no,
traders matter?
of course it doesn't, but that's like pure escapism, right? Like
So
the
is the
Oscars
Oscars.
no, the Oscars doesn't feel like escapism, right? Because that's so congratulatory on these like for these celebrities, right? It's just like you guys have such a big platform, and you just told me that only one person has brought up the Ukraine in this giant platform that they have,
I know.
right?
Yeah.
Only one person brought up the war in Israel, right? And like the genocide that's happening to the Palestinian people, right? That all that would just do is just make me more angry at the situation that like these people have these platforms and not one person spoke out, or at least just or that only one person spoke
Not,
out.
I mean, not enough. But again, it wasn't. People did speak out, but they didn't use the whole thing to do that. Sure, but it's not a political thing, and like you want it to be something that it's not. And people actually do go for the escapism. They go for the people winning these awards and celebrating the movies that they like and dressing up in these outfits. Like that's why people, and at the end of the day, most people who just like watching award shows watch it. It's kind of like
Yeah,
watching the Super Bowl and at like thinking that people are gonna use that for a political platform. No, they just want to watch people play fucking sports.
you can make the argument Kendrick Lamar did with his like halftime
Yeah,
show.
but he also used it more so to shit on Drake. So
That's which is also fine. He's Canadian.
yeah.
Right?
So
Think of it. Trump should have been cool with that. To be quite honest.
and then they had this whole thing where they tributed the firefighters who helped de-escalate the situation that's happening over in LA. Like they actually really showed more respect this year than any other ceremony to, again, the below the line people and the people who are actually making a difference.
Yeah.
Like in the past they've gone up and like made a big hoopla about all the actors, but this year they did it for cinematography and costume design, where like a different cast member for each film talked about the people who are nominated and
Mhm.
really celebrated their work. And that was nice to see.
That
There's
is nice.
actually, again, a shift there.
Because I mean, considering like most of the people whose homes were burnt in these fires are probably below line people, right? Like the people who can live in LA but not necessarily live in like the areas that were probably being protected the most, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And then Mikey Madison won Best Actress, big upset from Demi Moore from The Substance. Adrian Brody won for The Brutalist. Not too many people representing either remakes, reboots, or revivals won. Wicked won like 2 awards. Dune Part 2, which is the second of a revived property, that won
Mm,
2 awards. Nosferatu won nothing. Some of the things that we've discussed on this podcast.
wow. Yeah.
It was actually more about the independent smaller movies, you know? And I wonder, are like independent movies gonna push up now? You know, are they gonna be more of the focus of Hollywood, or are they just gonna keep going on this IP trajectory that they've been doing for the past as long as we've been doing this podcast, you know? I do
I
wonder the
don't
ripple effects.
Yeah, I don't know. So, I don't know if the issue is necessarily IP focus. I think it's the bloat that comes with those IP budgets. I think that's the bigger issue, right? Like, look at Nosferatu. You $50 million budget, right? That's not a huge budget for a film.
Yeah, I think it might
And
have even been less.
oh, so even better, right? But what I'm saying is just like you can have these IPs like remakes and reboots, and you could still do projects that are still mid level and stuff, and still bring in an audience. So I don't. I would say I feel like the message, the takeaway message should really be like, let's focus on telling creative stories. We don't have to just blow our budget like on special effects and stuff, right? Especially considering how underpaid those that entire industry is.
I mean, Hollywood is a business. It's a business, and they're always going to be thinking about the money that they're drawing in. They're going to want to take bets on things that feel a little bit more guaranteed. And for a long time, IP has been kind of like a guaranteed
Yeah.
bring in money. So I just wonder if they're going to take more risks because people below the line are like asking, like they're going up. Brady Corbet did this when he went for the Brutalist somewhere. They're like, please support, like I think even last year with American Fiction when that won Best Screenplay, they were
Hmm.
saying please start taking more risks, you know. So I would love for the Academy to see it. I mean, for Hollywood to do it.
Hmm.
And because Honora has won, you know, hopefully there will be somewhat of a shift of there being more original content and this kind of independent film focused
I mean, I'll even say
push.
this much. I mean, even that movie that everyone's like shitting on, Amelia Perez,
Yeah,
was kind of a big risk too,
it was
right?
a huge risk.
Like it's not a conventional film, so I don't think I don't know. I don't think the message is lost. I just think it's just like I don't know. Yeah, it's just like you know the Oscars.
Yeah, you're so good at this with this podcasting
I know.
reacting. You're really just showing people all the
How
great things you've got to say about this. Yeah.
it's just like, but I guess I'm living on this like since November. There's been like this existential dread, right? And like part of it has been like when using the podcast, like I'm using it to it's a form of escapism, right? To complain about like vapid menial things and stuff, right? But we can talk about the actual creative decisions made in a film or a TV show. That's different necessarily from like watching, I guess, for me, all these celebrities just getting on stage and just fucking like just like I don't know, up each other's asses, right?
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, there is definitely that aspect of it. Adrian Brody's acceptance speech was very entitled and very like all about him and
did
his
he give
place.
I saw that he gave gum or something to somebody, like he spit out his gum.
Yeah, he spit out his gun before he went up. So,
Very
which
nice.
I didn't even realize. But and it's those moments where I am like fucking eye rolling and just being like, this is why people hate this and like deservedly so.
Hmm.
So, and I totally get that. Well, thank you for on that note, Rolando. Thank you. We'll wrap it up from there. Did you watch the Oscars? Are you a fan? What are some of your thoughts on some of these awards and anything that we talked about today? Share your thoughts by commenting on this video. You can always reach out to us in other ways. All of our social medias in the link below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And until next time.
Stay unoriginal.